10 days ago, something happened that has never happened in the entire history of human civilization. Not in ancient Rome, not during the Rockefeller era, not during the rise of the tech titans. Never. On June 12, 2026, Elon Musk became the world's first trillionaire. Not a billionaire, a trillionaire. A number so large that if you spent $27 million every single day, you still wouldn't run out of money for 100 years. Forbes confirmed it, Bloomberg confirmed it, the entire world confirmed it. But here is the question nobody is asking. What if the real richest person on Earth isn't even on that list?
Let's start with what we know. On June 12, 2026, SpaceX went public on the NASDAQ under the ticker SPCX. It priced at $135 a share. By the end of that first trading day, shares had surged to $159. The company's valuation crossed $2 trillion, making it the largest IPO in recorded history. Bigger than Saudi Aramco, bigger than Alibaba, bigger than anything. Musk's stake in SpaceX alone is now worth over $760 billion. Add his Tesla holdings, his XAI position, X, Neuralink, the Boring Company, and you get a number that Bloomberg and Forbes both place somewhere between $1.2 and $1.3 trillion. To put that in perspective, Musk's fortune now exceeds the combined wealth of the next 3 richest people on Earth. Larry Page, Sergey Brin, Jeff Bezos, all 3 of them. Together, still less than Musk. He doesn't just lead the rankings, he has separated himself from the rest of humanity. But, and this is where it gets interesting, how exactly is that number calculated? And more importantly, what does it leave out?
Here's something Forbes doesn't advertise on its cover. The Bloomberg Billionaires Index and the Forbes list both operate on the same fundamental assumption, that wealth is something you can see, something that's filed with the SEC, something that trades on a public market, something that has a ticker symbol. Musk's net worth is calculated like this. Take his SpaceX shares, multiply by the current stock price, number. Take his Tesla shares, multiply by the stock price, another number. Add up his stakes in private companies using their last known valuation, final number. But here's the catch. That number is almost entirely paper. On the day SpaceX went public, analysts at Bloomberg and financial reporters at the Wall Street Journal all flagged the same caveat. Musk is in a post-IPO lockup period. That means he cannot sell most of that freshly listed SpaceX stock for somewhere between 90 and 180 days. He is, on paper, worth over $1 trillion. But that money is locked. It moves with the market. It can go up, it can go down. Tesla is proof of that volatility. When Musk got heavily involved with the Trump administration in 2025, Tesla's stock got crushed, shedding nearly half its value. A Yale study found that Musk's political association cost Tesla over 1 million vehicle sales in the US alone. His net worth dropped by over $126 billion between December 2024 and March 2025. In weeks. So if wealth that's publicly visible can swing that wildly, what about wealth that's never been visible at all? That is the question this investigation is really asking.
There are 2 kinds of wealth in this world. The kind that shows up in an SEC filing, trades on an exchange, and gets updated every time a market closes in New York, and the kind that has never been filed anywhere, never been listed anywhere, never been estimated by anyone with any real accuracy. Because it doesn't need to be. Because the people who hold it answer to no one. Economists and financial historians call this the problem of sovereign and dynastic wealth, and it represents arguably the largest blind spot in every billionaire ranking ever published. Here is what we mean. When Forbes ranks Elon Musk at number 1, they are measuring his stake in companies. But entire nations have sovereign wealth funds.
Massive pools of capital built from oil revenues, natural resources, and national savings that are controlled by ruling families who never have to disclose a personal balance sheet.
Norway's sovereign wealth fund manages over $1.7 trillion. Kuwait's investment authority holds close to $900 billion. Abu Dhabi's investment authority oversees an estimated $700 billion or more. And the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, which is personally directed by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, manages over $900 billion and is growing. None of that shows up next to a royal family member's name on Forbes. And that's not an accident. It's by design.
Open Forbes right now. Find Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the ruler of Dubai, vice president and prime minister of the UAE. Forbes estimates his personal net worth at around $14 to $16 billion. $16 billion against Musk's $1.2 trillion. That's not even close, right? But here is where this story gets complicated. Sheikh Mohammed personally controls 99.67% of Dubai Holding, a massive conglomerate with stakes across real estate, hospitality, media, and technology. He is the driving force behind the investment corporation of Dubai, the Emirate-level sovereign fund that in 2026 manages an estimated $340 billion in assets, including Emirates Airline, Dubai's entire banking system, DP World, NASDAQ Dubai, and much more.
The Al Maktoum family's broader dynastic wealth, trust holdings, palaces, global stud farms across Newmarket, Kentucky, and Dubai, and unlisted private vehicles is estimated by analysts at somewhere between $40 and $60 billion on its own. And that is just the family's private layer. It doesn't include the assets that the family controls, but that are technically labeled as state property. Now, here is the legal and philosophical question that no ranking agency has ever cleanly answered. When you are the ruler of a state, when you are simultaneously the head of government, the head of the sovereign wealth apparatus, and the patriarch of the ruling dynasty, where exactly does the state's wealth end and your personal wealth begin? There is no clear answer, because in many of these systems, there is no real separation. Forbes gives Sheikh Mohammed $16 billion, but analysts at the Middle East Insider and other financial research groups estimate that when you factor in dynastic trusts and state-linked control, the picture looks very different. Not necessarily richer than Musk on a personal basis, but operating in a financial universe that rankings were simply never built to measure.
Sheikh Mohammed is just one piece of this puzzle. Look at Brunei. Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah has ruled the country for nearly 6 decades. The country's oil revenues have flowed through a sultanate with no meaningful separation between state finances and royal finances. Estimates of his wealth range from $6 billion to over $30 billion, because nobody actually knows, and nobody is required to say. Look at Saudi Arabia. The House of Saud is comprised of thousands of royal family members. MBS, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, personally chairs the Public Investment Fund, the country's sovereign wealth vehicle, now targeting over $2 trillion in assets. His personal net worth? Not publicly disclosed. Analysts say the figure is essentially unknowable. And then there's generational old money wealth. The Rothschild family's fortune at its 19th century peak was so vast that historians estimate it represented roughly 1.5% of Europe's entire economic output. Today, their wealth has been fractured across dozens of private trusts, holding companies, and family branches spread across the world.
Not tracked, not ranked, largely invisible. The pattern is consistent. The wealthiest entities on Earth are not always the ones at the top of a public list. They are often the ones who have the least incentive and the least obligation to ever appear on one. So, after all of this, where does that leave us? Elon Musk is, by every verifiable, publicly documented metric available in June 2026, the wealthiest individual in recorded history. $1.2 to $1.3 trillion, the first and only trillionaire. That is real. That is confirmed. Nobody is disputing it. But the Forbes list, the Bloomberg index, these are instruments built to measure a specific kind of wealth. Publicly listed equity, filed ownership, disclosed stakes. They are excellent at measuring that world. They were never designed to measure sovereign control, dynastic trusts, multi-generational private wealth held across shell structures in multiple jurisdictions, royal family assets that are technically state property, but functionally family property. Here's the uncomfortable truth that financial historians have been writing about for decades. The richest entities in human history have never been individuals. They have been dynasties, ruling families, sovereign powers, institutions that outlived any single person's lifetime and accumulated wealth across centuries, not decades. Musk built his fortune in roughly 20 years. It is extraordinary. It is unprecedented in the modern public market era. But the question was never really about whether Musk is the richest person on a list. The question is whether the list itself is capturing the full picture. And the honest answer is, it isn't. It never has been.
And the people who know that best are the ones who will never appear on it. Here is what I want you to think about after you finish watching this. Every wealth ranking you have ever seen was built on the assumption that real wealth is visible, that it has a ticker symbol, that it files reports, that it shows up somewhere. But the most powerful financial structures in human history were built specifically to avoid all of that. So the next time you see a headline that says Elon Musk is the richest person alive, the correct response isn't to disagree. He almost certainly is the richest person on any list that has ever been compiled. The correct question is, who isn't on the list? That's the investigation we're not done with yet. If this made you think differently about how wealth actually works in this world, share it with someone who still thinks Forbes tells the whole story. And drop a comment below. Do you think the real wealth of the world's most powerful families will ever be fully known? Or is staying invisible the whole point?